Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
Back at you, Gloves Off. I'm Professor Buitrón. I'm here with Grand Master Richard Hackworth, and we're talking about martial arts and the importance of the understanding of for parents to know what a martial art is or what they're enrolling their child into. Good morning. How's everything in Florida, Grand Master? You doing good?
Hey, we're doing great, and I'm glad to be here with you.
Well, thank you for being up here and showing your, because you're a sage in the martial art world, okay? And your school and your success and your mentorship of many others is people know about and people care about. So I'm going to ask you this question: how can we get because most martial arts schools always enroll the youth, some from the wee ages, but the basic age is probably 6 to about 15, 16 years of age. So we have a vast number of youth that come into the martial arts schools. But what is the main reason that parents bring their child in? How do you see that? How can we teach the parents?
Well, unfortunately, the parents are really unaware of the practical benefits of martial arts training. So for a lot of them, they're looking at it as a last resort sport. Their kid wasn't good in a team environment, so they want to get them into something more individualized, or really just something to entertain the kid a few hours a week while they run out and do errands and go shopping. And they really underestimate the value and the impact that martial arts training, particularly under a good instructor, can have on that child's life. Everything from improved academics to better health and confidence and self-esteem, all of the things that help them have the willpower to say no to drugs, to avoid unhealthy peer pressure, to stay away from gangs and other bad influences. And when you take into account those aspects of the benefits, really you can't put a dollar amount on the value because it's priceless if you love your child.
No, you're absolutely correct. And every martial art is different. And there's a vast array of martial arts, but running the business aspect of martial arts schools is basically the same throughout. And I tell this to a lot of folks: I don't care whether you're teaching out of a park, rec center, your garage, or a storefront. The instant you start accepting people, that's the instant you became a professional martial art instructor. And you have to take it as such. If you want to charge or barter or charge for your rent, that's part of the course, because you need a place to train. The business aspect is one thing, but now the membership aspect is another. In some styles of martial arts, you're going to have a lot of influx of kids in comparison to adults. That's normal. We understand that. But what happens is a lot of parents do not pay attention to where they're sticking their child in or placing their child in type of school, okay? And things go wrong sometimes. So how would you tell a parent that's coming into a school that's looking for a martial art, how to search for a martial art, number one?
Well, I think for one, try getting referrals, ask your friends and fellow people in the community, because anybody can say whatever they want in their marketing. But you want to make sure that you're going to visit someone who has a good track record of successfully mentoring and training students to achieve their goals. Because if all they're doing is going for exercise, they're really missing out on the benefits. And if they're going just for pure entertainment, they're really missing out.
You're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Then you have the parents that are, how can I put it to you this way? Like you said, they'll place them in because they need something to do. They're going to go shopping on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They're going to go run errands on, well, Tuesday and Thursday, you're going to go to the martial arts school. Kind of like a babysitting service.
Yes.
Okay.
And a lot of that falls back on the instructor's approach as well, business-wise.
How would you explain that?
Well, this is basically the way it boils down. A lot of instructors are concerned with customer satisfaction. And the problem with that is that the customers don't understand what it is they're supposed to get out of martial arts. So if they want to play dodgeball and jump rope and skip around the room, throw pads at each other, if that's what makes them happy, that is not what my program is about. And for me, I feel that customer loyalty is more important because those are the people who understand the value of what they're getting from the program, that they understand that the martial arts tuition is not an expense, it's an investment. Just like some people can afford to send their child to military school to develop that high level of self-discipline and respect, we can do that a few hours a week through martial arts training if the parents support the instructor's methods. And the way I can best explain this for instructors to understand the difference between satisfaction and customer loyalty is, let's take this from the perspective of your spouse. You want your spouse to just be satisfied, or do you want your spouse to be loyal? Which one is important?
Absolutely, absolutely, and that you're absolutely correct, because there's some what I've seen. A lot of parents come in there, and and I'm going to tell you this story. We had a young lad jump in, and the grandmother comes off the car, and she says, "Why do you have the class at this time?" "It's during my soap opera. I'm missing my soap opera to bring him here. I can easily just drop him off over at the rec center for him to play basketball." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but this is where your daughter enrolled him in, And the child's doing great, but every time she drops him off, she's always harping on the soap opera bit. You know what I'm saying? So I guess it's the value that people have in their lives in comparison to the value that they place in their rearing of their children, of their teens, and so on and so forth, right? Because every parent besides that's a little bit serious always talks about, I'm enrolling them here because they need discipline. Let's talk about discipline in a little bit within the martial arts, because those are the words that you hear in all the advertisements. Discipline, respect, self-esteem, self-defense. So it's always discipline is one of the words that you see in the advertisements that pop around town. How would you explain that?
Well, I think I would explain the self-defense first, in that in any good martial arts program, the children are going to receive a little bit of pressure testing, whether it's through sparring or some drills directly with the instructor, who's really testing them on their ability to block and defend against certain things. And that should be expected. And I've had to explain to parents sometimes that this is an important part of it. Just like if you had signed them up for American football, you would expect that child to, on occasion, get tackled. There should be no surprise. So if your child's in a martial arts class, you can expect that on occasion, if they're trying hard and doing their best and pushing, they're going to get a bruise. They're going to get kicked or hit, and they're going to kick and hit other people. They're going to throw other people. And it's an important part of the training, because not just the conditioning physically of the body, but mentally, to prepare them for when somebody sucker punches them at school or in a hallway or whatever, to be able to respond defensively as opposed to reacting in the fetal position. And then the other thing that I'd like to emphasize on the discipline is that the structure of the class helps create that, because the discipline level in the class where everyone has to sit down or line up and they follow in a certain sequence, each person gets a turn to count the numbers. While that's going on, everybody else has to wait their turn. There's no other youth activity where children have to wait their turn. It's all going on at the same time. So this creates the habit of them understanding that they have to wait their turn, and it grows their self-discipline over time. And then the other thing is that even though it's only counting numbers or reps or whatever the terms might be, when they're speaking, they're the only one speaking to count those reps or whatever the situation is. They're speaking in front of a group of people. And that develops a skill and a confidence that's going to help them academically throughout their life, because a child who does not have good self-esteem is not going to answer well when a teacher in school calls on them to stand up and read the first page of chapter 12 to the class. So through our training, we help to develop the self-esteem and the ability to speak in front of a group of people and to do it with confidence, to be sure of their answers. And so just that part alone is invaluable toward their academic development. And as far as the self-discipline goes, in learning about loyalty and integrity, and those are things that are going to help them professionally throughout their career and personally, because a young man with good integrity is going to, and loyalty, is going to have good, healthy relationships through their life, whether professional or personal.
Absolutely. And you hit some points they're the key points, but I think what you run into is a parent that wants the microwavable black belt. Okay, let me. I'm gonna share an experience. I had a child that was with me for 2 years in Kempo. He had just received purple going on blue, which is intermediate level. Okay, he was 12 years old. I don't have junior black belts in my school. I still follow the way I was taught. It's still, at 17 years of age, you can go for your black. So it takes a time. The mom comes in and says, when is she going to be a black belt? My nephew just joined so-and-so's martial arts school down the street, and guess what? He's already going for black. And I go, how long has he been there? 9 months. And I go, that's fine for them. But here, he's not going to be black till he probably reaches 17. Well, what I said, basically, she took the child out, and now he's sporting a black belt. You know what I'm saying? So right. when you get parents with mixed emotions of what the martial art instructors call McDojos, explain that scenario for parents that are listening to the podcast.
Well, I think that as far as McDojos go, it's just a lower type of standard to speed up the business and the collections process. For me, I like to explain to parents that there are different levels of schools. And so when you invest in your child's martial arts education, you want to invest in a school that's at the highest level. So when you tell me that somebody graduated and got a black belt in 18 months at the school down the street, I can tell you that in perspective, they graduated from kindergarten. We're a university. That's why our program takes longer. The amount of information in our curriculum and the type of training that we do is at a much higher level. And even though it has the same title, graduation to receive their black belt, it's not the same level. So if you're happy with your child having kindergarten level self-defense skills, then maybe that's the place for you. But if you care and love your child and want them to be able to protect themselves in hazardous situations, then you really want to put them in a higher level type of training. And I think for me, that kind of sets the standard for the difference in schools.
Absolutely, absolutely. What else would you like to tell parents when they're looking, when they have their child in there, if they're contemplating going with all the questions that you've answered, like, when is my child going to get his next belt, so on and so forth? What else would you like to reach out to the parents?
That is, as we grow their confidence and self-esteem, then naturally what happens is they try harder, and that their progression is based on their effort as much as our teaching. So if they're just kind of moving through the motions, then they're not going to reach the level of proficiency they need for the next belt as quickly as if they really put their heart and soul into the training. And kids can do that. Kids can, and some people will tell me my child can't focus. And I'm like, well, how long can he play a video game? They're like, oh, he'll stay up all night. I said, well, then he can focus on what he wants to do. So now we have to teach him to focus on what he needs to do as well. So I don't let him give me that, he has ADHD or whatever as an excuse. because we've had people with ADHD, people with autism, and they've all succeeded on their level by the effort that they put in.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's exactly right. Here comes another one. Within every martial art and every style around the world, you have sports. Some of them are tournament sports, some of them more combative sports. But regardless, we have sports. In fencing, you have a sport of fencing. In boxing, boxing. In martial arts, the more combative ones, of course, you have MMA and you have kickboxing and so forth. In karate, we have point systems. How can a parent be, because most parents now see the point system karate that's out there as that's what the standard is in martial arts throughout. How can you tell a parent there's a difference between a tournament school or a tournament or practicing for a tournament and the actual learning of the martial art? How can you explain?
Well, I would just say that, the tournament aspect is just one part. And the benefits to a tournament are things like getting over the fear of being hit, the confidence to face an opponent. But the limitations are the techniques you can use are not the same that we would use in the street in a self-defense encounter. Because in the ring, you're very protected. You have a referee that limits the type of attack that you're having to face. Whereas on the street, you don't have a referee protecting you. And it might be 2-on-1 or 3-on-1. So the mindset that you have to develop to protect yourself has to come from the self-defense training itself and not just sparring. And I think that a lot of people too don't understand that the point fighting is so limited that I compare it to a heavy bag workout compared to a round of boxing. You're going to have more contact and you're going to develop more pressure testing and you're going to develop a higher level of skill from actually, trading punches than you will from just punching a heavy bag or doing the speed bag or shadow boxing, for example. And that's what I compare forms to. Like forms competition to me is like shadow boxing. It has its place in the training, but it does not substitute the benefits of actual learning of self-defense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What else would you extend towards parents or to parents about martial arts?
Well, I think that the reality is, particularly for our young people, we live in a much more dangerous world these days. Parents are afraid to let their kids out to ride their bikes around the neighborhood and stuff like that. That was common, years ago. And so if you have those concerns, then you have to prepare your child for that world. And you have to let the instructor know that you want them to learn practical things. And that should include, and I know that you probably do this in your school as well, but they need to, at some point, have to deal with defense against a knife or a stick or what to do. And if they're not getting those things, don't let it be in a bad situation that's the first time they have to try to defend against a knife. You have to have some reality-based training there. And you're not going to see a lot of that at the schools that are particularly forms-based tournament-style training.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's a room and place for all of them. Believe me, because like any other sport, kids go to school and they like basketball, and a parent sticks them in camps or for basketball, or they teach them into a school for them to learn how to play basketball correctly, which is great. If your child goes to karate and all of a sudden you see him enjoying the tournament, there are schools that are just dealing for tournaments. And those schools for tournaments need to be understood that they have their place in the martial arts. But a tournament school is not one that teaches self-defense for reality. They're totally two different things in the world.
Right.
That doesn't mean a school cannot have a team and then prepare a team for a tournament and still continue a good curriculum. But there's, but there is a difference. There's schools that are just solely for tournament, and they have to be respected because they do an excellent job as well.
Yeah. And before I forget, I'd mentioned the knife training earlier. Actually, I believe you wrote a book about knife fighting. And So what I want to say is that the parents don't understand that if your child is learning how to defend against a knife, when somebody wants to knuckle up, their kid is not scared. They're like, "Shh, there's no knife in that hand, no problem. I'm going to deal with this quick." So even though the parents might feel uncomfortable about their child dealing with these kinds of things in training, the fact is it gives their child a type of confidence that could someday save their life. And the potentially life-saving benefits of the self-defense training have to outweigh their entertainment and their fun time. So, and I think that as they get into it, they'll have fun, even in a highly disciplined environment, because they'll enjoy the progress that they're making. But if they're not being confronted with these certain things, then they won't develop that real world confidence that is necessary to face a violent attacker.
Absolutely. And you're correct with that, because you need to understand the different scenarios, not only for a knife. And if you've never been, and I tell people this way, now we're going to just touch base on knife. If you do not know how to use a knife, you will never know how to defend against it. Just the same way, if you do not know how to throw a punch and respect the punch, there's no way you're going to learn how to defend against it. Same thing goes with a kick and so on and so forth, the different scenarios. And that's where sometimes some instructors in some schools, they miss the direction, they miss the point of not expanding on that. You have to teach them how to punch. You have to teach them to respect the punch. Yes. Because if you're just teaching them just to punch in the air and do a self-defense technique that there's never an actual touching, then believe me, that kid or that adult will go into the street and they're going to get hit in the face. Mm-hmm. And then all the technique and everything that they paid for is going to go in the same direction as that punch that hit them.
Yes.
And that happens very often. But again, back to what we're talking about, and that is parents within the martial arts. What can you say is the most joyful moment when a parent understands what their child is doing? How can you explain it in a school?
I think that as the child goes up through the belt ranks, they should be able to notably see the confidence increase. And that's going to carry over into all aspects of their life. But I think for the parents, the important part is when they start receiving respectful behavior from their children that they probably didn't get before. And that is a thing that happens more out of a martial arts school than out of any public school, because the public schools are certainly not teaching children to respect your elders and to show respect. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir, please, thank you. We use all of these words in our classes. And we explain to the kids that you're not putting yourself down when you speak this way. You are showing everybody who's hearing this conversation that you are a person with highly developed self-discipline, and that you speak this way because of self-respect, that you don't allow who you're talking to drag you down to their level.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything else or any words for the martial art instructor that's listening out there that's going through some problems with the school? We're trying to get parents to focus more. What would you say?
I would say you have to communicate with the parents better. That's one of the things that we do with our program is that we try to make sure that we're communicating on a regular basis. We're featuring students in our social media so that they understand that they're part of a school culture and school community, so that the kid doesn't feel like he needs to go out and join a gang or something else to belong, that he has a place to belong. And it's a place that's going to help him develop a high level of self-discipline and seek self-improvement. Because I tell people, especially young guys, teenagers and stuff, don't chase girls, chase self-improvement, and girls will chase you. Don't chase money, chase self-improvement. And as you get better, money will chase you. It's all relative, and you can't do that if you're focused on the wrong thing, because everybody wants to change the world, But they don't understand you can't change your world unless you change yourself first.
Absolutely. And that's what martial arts does. They start changing you from within. In a good school, in a good environment, that's what happens. If you have a great instructor, that's what occurs. You know, and to all the martial art instructors out there, I know it was a hard time last year with COVID and with our pandemic, and a lot of schools closed down. A lot of schools, I've seen instructors joining schools together, teaching from home. Always teach professionally, and especially if you're going to go into the home scenario, there's a lot more dangers inside. Things change. Make sure that everything is done professionally, because you're still a professional martial arts instructor. The instant you have students. And what would you tell folks right now that they're having troubles with the crisis? What would you tell someone?
I would tell them, first of all, that a lot of people are facing the same thing, and the idea of combining schools is a good idea, or going outdoors to a public park. If you change your teaching model to that, I would use teaching from home as a last resort, just because of the liability. Because if a student gets hurt in your home and on your personally owned property, it's a lot different legally as far as your responsibility compared to at your business, because your homeowner's insurance isn't going to like this. You know, so don't wait till you're in court to find out that they don't want to cover this kid getting hurt. So, you know, I really think that the idea of instructors, you know, putting ego aside and working with other people, that combining schools is a great option. And I prefer, because otherwise the only people that profit in the martial arts are the landlords. And that's what I've told people for years. If you're not working with other instructors, the only person making the most money is your landlord. So, and I know that you've probably seen some of that in your area, right? Because commercial rent is not cheap.
No, it's not.
You know, and I see guys out there that I know instructors that are paying between $4,000 and $6,000 a month in rent. And I said, what's your mortgage at your home? You know, do you know what kind of house you could live in for $6,000 a month? You know, and it finally starts to ring at just how much money they're spending there. But when you team up and you cut your overhead in half by joining other forces, then you've automatically doubled your profit.
No, absolutely. And you see the merging of schools, and I saw that especially in France when I lived and teach in France. Was you in one school, in one rec center, you had 4, 5, 6 different instructors, styles, and everybody helped each other out. Nobody was, this one's better than yours, this one's mine. Everybody had their own time frame, everything was scheduled. And here in the United States, you try to do that and everybody's bickering and arguing against each other. Hey, egos have to go out, people need to merge. You know, you can have it Monday, Wednesday, and the other person can have it Tuesday, Thursday. You can have Friday, Saturday. The list goes on. But you have to respect the time. You have to set everything in there. And the students have to understand that as well.
Yeah, I think a big part too is for parents to learn that they're buying a service, you know, that the quality of the instruction is the #1 thing they should be judging, not the facility. Because there are a lot of people out there who really lack experience, but have a great looking facility. And so a lot of people can be fooled by that. Whereas if they focus more on the quality of the training, then they'll find that they're much better off in the long run.
Absolutely. Well, Grandmaster, I want to thank you for your words. And these words are going to resonate throughout not only 2021, but throughout martial art careers. Hopefully people out there are paying attention to it. And parents, if you're looking for a martial arts school, the words Grandmaster Richard has said are pearls of wisdom. So please pay attention. And I want to thank you, and I wish you the best. And hopefully this year everybody can come back at least into a balance.
Yes, and I just want to thank you. I always appreciate the opportunity to work with you and be on the show. So any time, you know, I would love to be back.
We'll do that. We'll we'll put scenarios out there and talk about them. At least once a month, we should touch base to see what's happening out there in the world of martial arts, which way it's going on. I know right now a lot of the schools, a lot of the tournaments, because of the COVID, have been stopped. So a lot of the tournament work is no longer. So a lot of people right now that used to have tournaments, see, maybe the next time we can talk about in school tournaments or something like that.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. I'll look forward to it. Thank you, sir.
You be safe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Today, in America, more than 5.5 million men, women, and children train in a martial art regularly. Bowie Tyrone Academy has been serving Laredo for over 30 years now. Our adult classes are geared for producing the best in you, teaching you street-ready techniques. With the arts of Savate and Kenpo, you'll learn the traditions of these sciences of combat, as passed down professor to student.
Hello, my name is Stephen Plank, and to whom this may concern. Professor Paul Buitrón is an outstanding human being and a close friend of mine, where his martial art prowess and skill is at equal to his humanity. His teaching capabilities are what one would expect of someone from his caliber. I've been in martial arts since I was 9. I'm 65 years old now. However, if I had a son or daughter who needed to learn self-defense, anti-bullying techniques, and or gain a higher level of skill in fighting, and in which I could not instruct, then Professor Paul Buitrón would be my choice. His martial understanding of his Savate is higher than anyone else I have met. His pedigree is impeccable. He comes highly recommended by myself. Guru Stephen Plank. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Richard Planis. I was the vice president of the IKKA for Ed Parker for many years, 10 years before he died. And I still travel the world teaching all over. And I met lots of people through the years. One of them I want to congratulate is Paul Buitrón down in Laredo, Texas. He's opening a new school, and that's always good to hear. I've known Paul since he was about 18 years old. I couldn't even tell you how old he is now. We've known each other for a long time, and he's like a lot of people should be, takes art seriously. He incorporated many arts, in his school. He does, capoeira, silat, jiu-jitsu, eskrima, kenpo, lots of different things. Any art like myself that you see a value in, you can bring it in and incorporate it if you want to. Anyway, so he's opening a new school, and I'd like to recommend it to anybody who wants to train down in the Laredo area. Meet him, go see him, you'll have fun. Thank you. Bye.
Come train at the best kept secret of Laredo. Give us a call for your free evaluation at 956-401-4868 or check out our website at savate.biz. Follow us on YouTube and Facebook.